Yo, what's up? What's going on? This is the midweek report. Here we are checking in July 21st, 2021, and we got like a few things that we're going to be going over and going through here in this particular report. There's like good amount of stuff that we're going to be talking about. Of course, a couple of announcements that did go down here over the past couple of days, as you have two of the bigger stars in the sport of boxing uh, that will either be in a fight or likely in a fight. As we had the announcement through Matchroom Boxing that the unified heavyweight titles will be on the line September 25th, as you're going to have the unified champion there, Anthony Joshua. They're going up against former undisputed champion Alexander Usyk, and that will be at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They're over in the UK. So you're going to have, of course, Anthony Joshua, the unified champion, there that had his last defense against the IBF mandatory in Kubrat Pulev. Now he's going up against the WBO mandatory and Alexander Usyk. Of course, Alexander Usyk, uh, undefeated. There, had the undisputed cruiserweight title, and had defended it a couple of times before moving up to heavyweight. So he's there at 18-0, going up against Anthony Joshua, who is 24-1. Of course, he avenged that long loss to Andy Ruiz Jr. In December 2019 to regain those unified titles. So this is going to be a big bout there in Tottenham, as you're going to have two of the more highly skilled fighters there in the heavyweight division. Of course, Alexander Usyk, with his couple bouts that he's had at heavyweight against Chaz Witherspoon and against Derek Chisora. People have seen what he did against Derek Chisora, and how a couple of times that he had a few issues with Chisora, and through those 12 rounds, he got 7 rounds to 5 on two of the scorecards. So you did have that giving people some thoughts about how he's doing at heavyweight. And from recent pictures, it's looking like he's trying to bulk up, get himself filled out there in the heavyweight division. His last fight, he weighed in a little bit over 217 pounds, but he's there around 6'3". So if he's going to be around like 220, 225, maybe for his fight against Anthony Joshua. Joshua is there fluctuating at about 230, 245, from not 230, but 237 pounds to 245 pounds. Anything above that, that might give him a little bit of issues. So he's gonna try to stay within that range of I'd say 235 to about 240, 243 pounds for his fight against Alexander Usyk. You're going to have Usyk. Looks like he's going to be under the tutelage of Anatoly Lomachenko here in preparation for this bout against Anthony Joshua, and it gives him, well, it's going to be about 8 weeks there, even though most of them or both guys have been in camp, in and out, so to speak. Of course, about the whole thing with Anthony Joshua over the previous 5 or 6 months. But with Alexander Usyk, Usyk is there, uh, having his preparations in the gym, and I think that he's gonna try to see if he could get to the inside of Anthony Joshua, and try to affect Anthony Joshua with power shots. My thing is that what will it take for him to get to the inside? Will he have the adequate movement there at heavyweight to get in and out of the pocket against someone like Anthony Joshua, who is like I said, a great counterpuncher and has real power behind his shots, and he's was put specifically in his past two fights, the rematch against Andy Ruiz and against Kubrat Pulev, that he's getting in more combinations, being more efficient in when he throws his punches and how he controls the pace of the fight. So it's going to be a very pretty good tactical battle between these two. It might end up being a little bit a step above when Joshua fought Alexander Povetkin, as it took a little bit for Anthony Joshua to figure out where Povetkin was going to be at before he was able to seriously hurt Povetkin in the sixth and then the seventh round, where he was able to get the knockout in the seventh round. So Joshua against Usyk, that's going to be a definite big bout there for those unified heavyweight titles. And shoot, as far as we know, that's about the only title bout that's going to be coming up here for the heavyweight division. As as of right now, they say that Fury Wilder 3 has been rescheduled to October 9th. But we'll see how that turns out here in the next couple of months or so. That's going to be taking place on October 9th. So as of right now, you got September 25th, Joshua versus Usyk there. And right, I mean, for me, I feel like this is something where I would give Joshua the edge, or at least I put him as the favorite. Um, the thing about it is like I think it was John Fury, the father of Tyson Fury, who kind of like said about this particular bout, and he kind of like said the old saying, "The good big guy beats the good little guy every time." So that's what we got here. You got someone that's a very good fighter there at heavyweight against a very good fighter that's coming up from cruiserweight, and we're just gonna see these two guys battle it out. Come September 25th, and we'll get more things going for that particular bout as it gets closer to that fight date. Like I said, it's gonna be in Tottenham over in the UK, and initially, some fans over there in the UK last how this is going to be handled as far as like capacity is concerned, given the whole thing with COVID-19 protocols, and maybe they need like a vaccine passport of sorts to actually attend this event. But it remains to be seen. Of course, they have the Euro Cup semifinals and finals there in the previous weekend over in Wembley. So maybe they'll be able to have a little bit more leniency as far as like large capacity crowds are concerned, so that once this bout does take place, then they'll be able to have a full crowd there at that stadium. So that's one thing that we're looking into here for the fall, as we got a good amount of fights, like I said, that have been announced first. Thing was, like I said, the thing with Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. You also have one fight that's close to being official. Of course, Canelo Alvarez, Caleb-Plant. Looks like they're about one more step closer to making that fight official. That that would be for the undisputed title at super middleweight. You have Canelo Alvarez with 3 to 4 major titles: WBC, WBO, and the WBA, and Caleb playing with the IBF title. Lomachenko there. Lomachenko. Excuse me. You had the thing there for Canelo, where he was able to beat Callum Smith, and then he was able to have a defense against Andy Yoderm, and then defeat Billy Joe Saunders earlier this year to win the WBO super middleweight title, and now he goes up against Caleb Plant. Looks like it's leaning towards being in Las Vegas, Nevada, September 18th. And if it's going to be Las Vegas, Nevada, September 18th, it will be in the MGM Grand Garden Arena, because for that particular weekend, a lot of venues are booked. There, T-Mobile Arena is booked. iHeartRadio Music Festival is that weekend. You got college football over at the Raiders Stadium. So the next best venue out there would be the MGM Grand Garden Arena. So you're gonna have something with Canelo and Plant there at MGM Grand Garden Arena, and it kind of like makes a little bit of sense at this particular point if they're going to have it there September 18th, because Plant, even though he's the IBF champion, he's been established there at the super middleweight division. He doesn't really have that much the following, so to speak, to kind of like bring a big overall crowd. Most of the stuff, or most of the crowd, would come through Canelo fans or people that will want to see Canelo Alvarez. And so, with that being said, that's why this is likely going to be at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Those details, pretty much haven't been necessarily official as of yet, but that's what I'm leaning towards. Had said, I had said like in the past that once the stuff was going to be talked about, as far as like the possibility of Canelo fighting Caleb Plant, pretty much was making that call that it was going to be that was going to be the fight. It was going to be September 18th, and it was going to be in Las Vegas. Yeah, he did have one fight over in Miami. What was it? Like February this year. Then in May he fought over in Texas, and so if he gets his fight or pulls it off here in September, he'll be able to have it in Vegas. So that means that that would be 3 fights in 1 year for Canelo Alvarez. And given this this time frame and how things have kind of like worked out as far as like boxing events, or large scale events are concerned in general, that would be something for Canelo Alvarez to have 3 fights. When there's a lot of fighters out there, that may only pull off 1 fight this year. And that would be something if he's able to do that here at this particular point. If he's able to fight Caleb Plant, but Plant is there as a fairly viable opponent, man. I mean, like you got him as the IBF champ. There at super middleweight, he's undefeated. They're 21-0. He has pretty good boxing skills. Some folks think he might be the most skilled fighter there in the super middleweight division. That he might pose a few problems there for Canelo Alvarez there, with him being at 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. But it's something where it would be a pretty good tactical battle between Caleb Plant and Canelo Alvarez. It's just that, will Caleb Plant have the power for Canelo for Canelo to respect him? That's the thing about Canelo Alvarez, is that if you're able to hit him, that's one thing. But if you're able to hit him with a power shot and he's still able to take that and still come forward, then you're in trouble. You've seen that with the likes of like Daniel Jacobs. You've seen that with Sergey Kovalev. You've seen that with Callum Smith. You've seen that with Billy Joe Saunders. A lot of these guys are able to land punches on Canelo Alvarez, but weren't able to stop his overall momentum, stop him from going forward, stop him from doing what he wanted to do in the ring. And that would be the question here for Caleb Plant is he going to be able to do something that makes Canelo Alvarez respect him and makes Canelo Alvarez have to make an adjustment during the fight? So that remains to be seen as we got to see how that's going to turn out. I mean, I feel like it's going to be a fairly good fight for most of the fight. It's just that you got to see if Caleb Plant is going to be able to, take a good shot from Canelo Alvarez. I mean, you've seen, a lot of the opponents that Caleb Plant has had, particularly when he's, won the IBF title. He's had, defenses against Mike Lee, Vincent Feigenbutz, and Caleb Truax. Yeah. Folks don't really necessarily feel like that's a good little resume there while holding the IBF title. Then you've seen that he's fought like guys like Andrew Hernandez, Rogelio Medina, Juan de Angel, Carlos Galvin, and that's part of the resume of Caleb Plant there, and that's when he's been in the game for about 7 years, where Canelo Alvarez has been a professional for twice the amount of time. Yep, that's right. It's been about 14, 15 years that Canelo Alvarez has been a professional. And you kind of like see that with his record. He has it's almost 60 professional fights. And if he has this thing come September, it will be his 60th professional fight against Caleb Plant. And that's going to be crazy there, as they're pretty much around the same age, but Caleb Plant just does not have the amount of experience, and of course does not have the amount of big fights that Canelo Alvarez has had. So it'll just be something to where Caleb Plant would have to see about stepping up in the big stage there against Canelo Alvarez. And I think that, Canelo will be a pretty good favorite. This bout is announced. So that's going to be, something there. If you have that become official, like I said, I mean, in this, the reports came out that they are a little bit closer to making that fight happen over in Las Vegas on September 18th. It's just that, they haven't necessarily signed on the dotted line yet. They haven't, gotten the financial details put down for it, so that's, kind of like what we got going on right here so far. So you do, have that. Other things that have been going on, I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next month, August 14th. We did have a conference call between Guillermo Rigondeaux and, John Rio Casimero there, as the WBO bantamweight title will be on the line. Shout out to Pound for Pound Sports Entertainment for joining in here. Salute to you. I watched that conference call with Guillermo Rigondeaux and John Rio Casimero, and of course one of those topics that were brought up was the whole little fiasco between John Rio Casimero and Nonito Donaire. And you had Casimero there, and you had his representative, Sean Gibbons, of course, Sean Gibbons, who also represents Manny Pacquiao. And, Sean Gibbons is like saying that the thing with John Rio Casimero was that he had always been registered, in the clean boxing program or in VADA. And so whatever the stuff that was coming out about John Real Casimiro was coming from the wife of Nonito Donaire. So all of that stuff was basically hearsay. It was rumors and that type of thing. And that it's going to be. I feel like it's going to be a very good fight for John Real Casimiro there against Guillermo Rigondeaux, especially with Rigondeaux. He had been a bantamweight, went up to super bantamweight, won the title, went up to super featherweight to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, and then went back down to bantamweight and won a version of a world title there. Um, so that's going to be a good little scrap there. That's going to come up August 14th. Got a guest here right now joining in the midweek report. Mr. Who You Pick, Mr. Give Me My Credit, joining in here in this conversation, world rank, saving your bad boxing opinions, man. What's happening with you?
What's going on, sir? I'm just checking in, man. I saw that you won, so I just wanted to check in and show you some support, see what's good.
Oh, just getting things going here, man. It's been a lot of news that's been happening within the boxing world and whatnot. Of course, Joshua-Usyk was finally announced. I know that in the previous episode of the podcast, the last part we were talking about if they were going to actually announce Joshua versus Usyk, and I just felt like it was just something where they had to make sure that everything had to be handled well as far as like attendance is concerned. They really wanted to have it at that Tottenham Stadium, so that was just the thing there. They were just waiting for that go ahead to do that, and now you got the whole thing about Canelo versus Caleb-Plant being close to finalized there, and it was something that I kind of like was talking about over the previous few weeks. Is that if they were going to have this fight happen, and if it was going to be in Vegas, how would they be able to pull it off? Because of a whole lot of activities and events that were happening at that particular weekend. They were saying like if it was either going to be September 11th or September 18th. And so looks like it's leaning towards September 18th. And if it's going to be that, then it'll be at the MGM Grand. It won't be at T-Mobile Arena though. Anything about those two fights, the Joshua-Usyk or Canelo and Plant?
Nah, not really, man. I just hope that these fights and they get official pretty soon. I'm excited for both of them. Hopefully, we get some good news in the heavyweight division with the other fight being postponed. So I know a lot of people jockeying for position and try to, see what the two big dogs was going to do. So any fights that get made are good things right now.
Yeah, and the thing with the heavyweight division that's what we're kind of like waiting on is we got this one fight official, and then the other one has been postponed. They say to October 9th, which might be a little bit of a good thing if you have something to the extent of if the winners of those fights were going to be able to fight each other next year for undisputed, then they would at least have that same type of window where it wouldn't be a long gap in between fights for either one of those winners there. So if you're gonna have those two fights kind of like taking place within a 2-week window, then that would be something to like kind of like say, hey, that would be good in this aspect for the heavyweight division, so that we could get a clearer aspect as to who would be out there as the top guy in the heavyweight division. We just haven't necessarily had that. And then with Canelo and Plant, of course, that would be something there with undisputed championship at super middleweight. I mean, we've had already 2 fights for an undisputed title. We had one, there at 140 pounds, as Josh Shelley was able to, pull that off. And then, last weekend we had the thing for 154 pounds, which ended up being a draw. So here we would have yet another undisputed title fight that's out there. Also, saw like the thing with I think it's like Rais Salim, maybe defending uh, his interim title against Daniel Rahman. That I think that has been like recently announced to be as the co-feature to Fulton versus Figueroa. So that there, man, is going to be on September 11th. So you're going to have that Brandon Figueroa versus Stephen Fulton, and as the co-feature, it would be Danny Rahman there against Rais Salim. So that would be real great there, as they've kind of like made some good fights there in that super bantamweight division. Well, I'd say the bantamweight and super bantamweight division. As I talked about the fight coming up August 14th with Casimir versus Rigondeaux, but you also have this here with Figueroa versus Fulton, and then you're going to have Rais Salim versus Daniel Rahman. So it looks like they don't really have that much of a problem making those fights there at 122 and 118.
Yeah, good for Danny Roman to be able, to still after his close fight with MJ and just kind of how all that went down and how people kind of left him to dry. Now he's just rebuilding, picking himself back up, and he's facing a good opponent and Reese the Beast. Man, it's gonna be a nice, entertaining fight. And the winner might, be in line for the winner of the main event. So, like you said, these fights are getting made because they're with the same promoter, and they're pretty good fights. Like you said, 122, 118, they're making those fights, and those are competitive, good fights. So that's always important.
Yep. Yeah, and like we were saying there with that part in 122, and then 118. Like I said, August 14th, you got that thing there with Guillermo Rigondeaux and John Rio Casamero, and then you got Gary Antonio Russell going up against former champion Emmanuel Rodriguez there to kind of like see who would still be competing there in that top part of the bantamweight division. I mean that's a real good kind of like card that they're putting together there for that particular weight or that weight class and in super bantamweight. And these are like the types of matchups that we would like to see more of here within the sport of boxing, is those high level or top level guys facing each other. But like you said, they're able to kind of like do that a little bit easier there in those particular weight classes, as they have a lot of those guys there. It's almost similar to what they were able to do over the past few years with 154 pounds. All of those guys, were able to face each other, and then it ended up culminating to that undisputed title bout that happened last weekend. So maybe we get something more closer to this here at 122 and 118. It just depends on what ends up happening with MJ Akhmadaliev, as he's the only one that's unified as champ there at 122. So looking at that as like a real good little matchup there. But going into that thing there for August 14th, that main event, Rigondeaux versus Casimiro. Like Casimiro says that he's not looking past Rigondeaux, as there could potentially be bouts against Inoue or against Donaire. And even in the conference call, he was talking about like Donaire and Inoue as being easy work in comparison to Rigondeaux, who has a different type of style than those fighters. But are you seeing something there in that particular bout between Rigo and Casimiro that other people might not see? Because I think they still have Rigondeaux as the favorite going into this fight.
Nah, I'm still kind of. This is gonna be to me right now. It's a 50-50 fight. Casimiro has been on a pretty good run. I don't want to say probably more active than Rigo. He's looked in better form, but one thing Rigo has done MJ, get out the living room. Recently is he's being more offensively active and more defensively less. I don't know what's the right word for it, but he's opening up more. So he's being hit a little more. He's getting a little older, and I don't think he wants to be hit by Casemiro pretty often because one thing about Casemiro is that he can punch, but he can be outboxed too, and Rigo is a plus class boxer. So in terms of intriguing style, the styles will mesh really well, especially as Rigo getting older and he's being more open to being hit. So it's going to be an entertaining fight, and I just can't wait.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be entertaining, given that Casemiro has had like his string of KO victories, leading into this bout with Rigondeaux. But Rigondeaux's there as multi-division world champion. Of course, decorated amateur career. Been there at bantamweight and super bantamweight. Now, just going back down to bantamweight and doing this thing. And the other thing with Rigondeaux is he hadn't had a fight since last February against Laborio Solis. So there's going to be a good amount of inactivity for him going into this bout that he has here against Jean-Real Casemiro. So that's going to be one thing to kind of figure out if he's going to be a little bit, slow or kind of like rusty in those opening couple of rounds there against Casemiro. Another thing that I'm like kind of like seeing here from the newswire is that they might have the thing delayed for that Teofimo Lopez George Kambosos card. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more, but wanted to get another person into the midweek report. Checking in from Atlanta, Mr. Mike Grady, man. What's going on, Mike?
What's going on, fellas? How you doing, Jay? How you doing, World Rank?
What's going on?
Not much, not much. I was listening, and I wasn't gonna join, but then World Rank started talking, and he was like at a loss for words, and I wanted to like interject and like help him out with a word. The word is defensively irresponsible. That's the word.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Because that was the word.
He's been getting irresponsible. Like it's I mean, don't get me wrong, it's more exciting, but that's gonna get your head knocked off.
Yeah, man. That's definitely the case there, man. You know, yeah, I was gonna, go into the whole thing there with Teofimo Lopez, but since you were just joining in here, Mike, I did talk about, the fights that were announced or kind of announced with Joshua versus Usyk. It's gonna be in September 25th. And potentially September 18th is going to be, Canelo versus Plant over in Las Vegas for the undisputed super middleweight titles. You got any thoughts on the thing there for Canelo and Plant?
I question if Plant has a chance. Not. Don't get me wrong. I went to one of Plant's fights in Nashville. I would Fig and Butts. I thoroughly enjoyed the match. I'm a fan of Plant. I just don't know if he has enough firepower to keep Canelo off of him. Like, could he box and move? Maybe, yes. But they're not gonna. It's sad, but they're not gonna give him that decision unless he knocked Canelo down like 3 times. They're not gonna give him the decision against Canelo. And with that being said, I just don't know if I've seen him hurt people enough in his previous fights to where Canelo won't be hitting him with the body shot and just like sort of teeing off. I hope it's a good fight. That's what I hope. I just hope it's a good fight.
Oh, so you might end up getting like the Adelaide Bird special.
Remind me what that is again.
The thing there for Canelo Alvarez getting favorable decisions or favorable scorecards. You know what I'm
Oh, the
saying?
117, 111. I got you.
Yes, yeah, something like that, or you know, uh, something like where he's getting a real favorable scorecard where it seems like he's clearly losing the fight or something like that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely think one scorecard will be 117 or greater. It's definitely gonna be one scorecard that'll be his for sure. I just don't know if Plant is gonna do enough to keep Canelo off him. I hope he does. I hope like Canelo respects his power, which will make a difficult fight for Canelo. Like if he could harness what Lara did, and you know, I feel like Lara. I don't remember the fight per se, like the specifics, but I think he was hitting him enough to where he at least made Canelo feel it. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I just don't know if he gonna keep him off of him, and it might just like it might optically look closer to the Billy Joe Saunders, even if it's not.
mm, yeah. I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking. If it was gonna kind of like lean towards more of like a similar fight that Canelo had with Billy Joe Saunders, in that Saunders may have had the boxing ability or movement that could have confused Canelo a couple of times until Canelo was able to catch up to him. But maybe it could be the same thing here with Caleb Plant, or is it going to be either that, or if it's going to be like the Callum Smith fight, where Callum Smith was kind of like known for having the reach and the height advantage, but he didn't necessarily use it there against Canelo. So it just remains to be seen, like how he's going to be able to fight Canelo Alvarez there. And like you were saying, you were there when Plant had his fight against Feigenbutz, and it took like a good amount of rounds for him to eventually take out Feigenbutz, and he did have a good performance overall in that particular fight, but still was able to. It took a while for him to stop Feigenbutz there, and he's there with a record of 21-0 with 12 KOs, and Canelo Alvarez, like I mentioned before, if this fight does take place, it would be Canelo's 60th professional fight. So that's crazy.
Is the activity part of Plant's game? Would he have to step? I think the key is to step up his activity. Even though we understand how Floyd did it and how Lord was competitive, but I think for Plant, I think his best way to go about it, because he's not going to really hurt Canelo. I can't see any situation he really hurts Canelo. Is it by being more active, not taking the approach of Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders, but actually taking the approach of Triple G in his fights? Because Triple G seemed to recently to land the most punches on Canelo. Whether he won or lost the fights, that's irrelevant. But he was competitive in both of those fights. And I think the way he got to that was through activity. And that may be the only way that Caleb Plant could get to at least making it where maybe like the Castaño Charlo fight, where at least the public perception is, or the Law fight, that the public perception is that Canelo lost, even if he doesn't get it on the official scorecards.
I think asking a tiger to change his stripes is going to be very difficult because if he used to controlling the pace, throwing 25 punches around, to ask him to throw 50 and then have the stamina to be able to keep moving in round 9, 10, 11, 12, I think that's asking a lot while getting hit in the body because Canelo will go to the body. I will put I would bet that his game plan would be to start early at Plant's body, early and often. I agree. him throwing all them shots is the only way he won't get bulldozed by like round 6 or 7. But yeah, he gonna have to go through the fire.
I don't really see, like, I can see him losing like clearly, but I don't see him as a Billy Joe Saunders quit type. Or did Callum Smith go the whole 12 rounds, or was he stopped? I don't remember the ending
Callum
of that.
Smith went 12.
Yeah, I can see. I can't see really a style where Plant gets walked through like Billy Joe Saunders did. I don't see Plant being that unsturdy, if that makes sense. And to your activity point makes a great point. Caleb Plant is not usually an active guy, but could it be because he hasn't had to do that because of the level of his opposition, or like you said, that's just not part of who he is? And I tend to think that you're right on that, but just the thought of maybe the opposition that he's been in has impressed him enough where he had to do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. Like on that one, I had a point that I was trying to say, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I think it was, so you said you don't know if you see the scenario where he is not durable enough. I'm paraphrasing your words, but that he wouldn't quit, which I don't see him quitting per se. But I guess my question to you is, Canelo 10 off on him, it wouldn't be him quitting, but the scenario I could see is Canelo catch him early, he get hurt off something that he keeps getting buzzed off. Like he get hurt round 3 off a big punch or a body punch or something, anything where he has to move, like the Keith Thurman effect, where he got to move. He get out the round, and then he box or whatever. But then Canelo hurt him again. Like I see that in my mind. That's what I see happening. Canelo hurt him with something, and it just he continue being able to just hurt him with something.
I mean, that's a fair point, but I see Caleb being more fleet of foot than Billy Joe Saunders. I think he has a better jab than Billy Joe Saunders, and I see it more closer to the lower fight. I see a competitive fight, maybe 8-4, 7-5. Caleb Plant doesn't seem like someone who is going to get hurt early. And you may be right, and I'm pretty sure, like you said, Canelo is going to land the baddie shots, but I think Plant will land some counters that will gain some type of respect from Canelo. And I don't think it's going to be a fast-paced fight. I think it's going to be a thinking man's fight.
So it could either be like y'all were mentioning there with the Canelo Lara, or maybe even to the effect of like Canelo Jacobs, because that, for a good amount of that particular fight, that was like a tactical battle until like the last, probably 2 or 3 rounds, where it was more of Canelo being a little bit more active than Daniel Jacobs. It just seemed like Jacobs was more reluctant to pull the trigger there in those last few rounds in this fight against Canelo Alvarez. Because I do see it being a little bit more of a tactical battle. I don't see Caleb Plant kind of being how would I say it? Like he would be like more like a Callum Smith, because when Callum Smith kind of like got hit with a good number of those power shots early from Canelo Alvarez, then you've seen him kind of like be like on his back foot and walking backwards and being very reluctant to throw his power shots. While on the flip side, Billy Joe Saunders was more willing to take some of those risks in order to be a little bit more successful, specifically in those middle rounds. I think it was like 4 to 6, where he started to take more chances, and when he took more chances, he was more successful there against Canelo Alvarez. So that's what I'm looking at here for Caleb Plant, if he's going to be able to take those amount of chances and just say, what, let me just go at it. This is my shot. And, if I don't do this, then I don't think I'll, be able to get the upper hand here against Canelo Alvarez. So,
My heart wants it to be what World Rank said, 7'5", 8'4". Caleb go out there and show us the medal that you already know. Like, you could tell he has a certain pride about himself. I get all of that, but I just don't want to. You believe in somebody. I ain't gonna say that. I was gonna say like a relationship, but the person who lied to you, you want to believe that they're not gonna lie next time.
right.
But it's in their nerves and their hearts and they sinew. I just don't know if trust in my heart that he gonna overcome. I just don't know. I want to believe it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
t-
it just, he just doesn't give you that type of confidence there, in comparison to, other guys that may be out there. What were you going to say, world rank?
I'm taking it as the approach of Callum Smith and Chavez. These guys aren't as good of boxers as Canelo-Plant, and they went 12 rounds with Canelo. Saunders was a good boxer, but I don't think Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders had the mindset of I'm good enough to win. I think they were just happy being there, happy getting the check, happy that this is the peak of my career. I don't think Caleb Plant's gonna have that mentality like I can't beat Canelo. I think I think in his heart he thinks he can beat him, and I do think he can be on a back foot, be a better competitor than they were on their back foot. He's going to fight the back foot fight. He's not going to come forward. He's not going to change his style, and really that would be suicide. But I think he's good enough at what he does to be competitive with this guy. I don't think Canelo is going to blow him out. I just can't really see a situation where he's just going to blow him out like he did Billy Joe Saunders. And even Billy Joe Saunders, and even I could take it further to the Amir Khan fight. Khan, as the boxer in that fight, was in the fight. His chin just didn't hold up. And if Amir Khan can be fairly competitive with Canelo boxing, I can't see Plant not being semi-competitive. Now, will he have the mindset that I can get the judges' scorecard or I can, steal rounds? I don't know if he's going to have that competitive nature where he feels like he has to, because essentially he has to win almost every round, essentially. And I don't know if he's capable of that, but I think he's capable enough to be okay with, hey, I lost 8-4 or I lost 7-5.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna speak emotionally again. I just hope it's a good fight. I like Canelo. I like Caleb Plant. I identify with Caleb Plant's struggle as a person. Like, I don't know him, but I'm just saying I could tell he, if I had to bet, he probably grew up around black people or close enough around them. And so, I would root for him more than I would root for Canelo, even though I would bet on Canelo. I just hope it's a good fight. I'm torn.
I was gonna ask you reference to the emotion about Caleb playing his chances against Canelo. Like, who would you be more confident in against Canelo, Caleb Plant or David Benavidez?
I mean, David Benavidez, just based off of his how many punches he throws. The Porky Medina, that's I think that's his name. The dude, he looked like it was sped up. That's like ingrained in my head. So, that's always good. But I definitely think Benavidez. I have a question for World Rank and you as well. once you get done with this question.
Yeah, you were talking about the whole thing there with Benavidez. Of course he's also undefeated. There he has 24 fights at 21 KOs, and he's put in a position to fight Jose Uzcategui. That's going to be August 28th, and yeah, you were talking about that whole thing there with that multiple punch knockout of Porky Medina, and it's crazy because like when he did that, that was a good little what was that, about a year, almost a year before Caleb Plant ended up fighting Medina, and Plant just basically got like a wide decision win over Medina. So he wasn't able to come up with something to be able to take out Medina in their fight, while David Benavidez, like you said, had that highlight reel knockout there in even before that he already scored 2 knockdowns against Medina. So that's why some people feel like David Benavidez is probably the most dangerous fighter for Canelo Alvarez at this particular point. Go ahead, ask your question.
Even though I do think Canelo will knock out Benavidez via body shots, I think Benavidez. I haven't confirmed this, but something about Benavidez make me think he's soft in the body, other than him not having abs. I think that if somebody ever tested his body, it would be a question he would have to answer, just based off of his midsection. And he tall. He got a tall torso as well. I just think that would be the way to go, and he gonna have to prove. So you mentioned the 2 guys that you didn't think were better than Plant. The tall guy, I forgot his name, the UK tall guy, and then it was somebody else. What were those 2 guys?
Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders.
Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders. So Billy Joe Saunders, I know, was smaller. He was smaller compared to Canelo, right?
Yeah,
both are coming up from lower weights, but yeah, he still was kind of like smaller overall.
But Callum Smith was 6'3" or something. He's 6'5", like he tall.
Yeah.
So the point I'm making is Plant is like 6'1". How tall is Plant?
Yeah, he's 6'1".
Okay, so looking at their size and length, I do think that, with that being said, yes, he could probably, based off his length and being able to use the ring and just fleet of foot, yes, he could make it 12 rounds based off of his size. And then Canelo was like 5'9".
Yep.
Yeah, he could make it, but if I feel that Canelo could hurt him based off his last couple performances. Like, his last couple performances made me not feel as good going into that fight.
I don't disagree that he can't get hurt. I guess I'm believing that there's professional resistance in him, if that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to find a fighter who was undefeated and kind of lost it, but like, it's hard for a person to give up that O, especially somebody.
Adrian Broner first loss when he showed. That's the last time he showed his grit.
Yeah, Adrian Broner. That's a good one. Like, it's hard for somebody at an elite to lose that O. Even Canelo, when he lost to Floyd, like, it's hard. Those guys are going to put in all they got because they are world-class fighters. Like, they're not just going to give up. And I'm not saying that you're saying that he's going to give up. I'm just saying I believe that he's going to put up he's going to pull out all the stops to make it at least a decent fight. I don't think he's just going to get whitewashed 12-0 or just let Canelo just bang on him. I just don't think he's that type of fighter. And I'm projecting his experience and his not ever taking a loss previously to kind of get him through the 12 rounds. And I do think he has enough boxing skills to be fairly competitive with him. Like I said, if Amir Khan can be competitive with him for 4 rounds, and even Trout or whoever Canelo has recently, Billy Joe Saunders was competitive, pretty competitive with him, and Billy Joe lasted 7 or 8 rounds, and I think Plant is a level above that, and that's kind of where I'm getting at. I think he's just a level above the guys he's been facing.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said there with the Amir Khan fight, the crazy part is that up until that round, I mean he was like ahead on one of those scorecards, before that knockout. So, like you said, he was doing fairly well as far as like measuring the distance and the range there from Canelo, and kind of like moving around the ring very well. So, if Caleb Plant could like kind of do something to nearly duplicate that and keep Canelo at bay, so he doesn't work close to be on the inside and land power shots, then maybe he has more of a shot to get to Canelo.
Was there ever a part of the Callum Smith fight that he was really hurt, where it was the possibility that it was going to be stopped? I don't remember the fight that well. Was it ever around where Callum Smith was really in trouble of getting stopped?
I thought there was
yes.
like one or two. There was like one or two rounds where he was getting hit by a good amount of power shots from Canelo. He was seriously backing up. He was going to the ropes. It was just that he didn't necessarily go down, to a shot, or go down to one knee. But he was getting hit with a good amount of power shots in the second half of the fight, where it almost looked like he was nearly gonna either go down or have the fight stop.
It like he wanted to quit toward the end of the fight. You could tell him like debating on if he wanted to quit or not.
But this is a guy who put out nothing offensively. He didn't do much of anything pretty much after the first 2 or 3 rounds. And if you're just a sitting duck and you sat in there for 12 rounds with Canelo, imagine somebody putting up some type of real resistance.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Callum Smith was that there were a couple of rounds where he did like land a couple of good shots. There was like one I remember where he landed a good uppercut on Canelo Alvarez, and he still was back to that thought of not really pushing himself to try to get something on Canelo. And so it was more of like a thing where Canelo was doing anything he wanted to, while Callum Smith was reluctant to do anything, because I guess he was anticipating what was going to be coming back from Canelo Alvarez. So that was the thing with Callum Smith. With Caleb Plant, I think Caleb Plant's going to be more confident as to what he's going to be able to do in the ring, and not get himself to a position where he ends up paying for any mistake that he possibly could make there against Canelo Alvarez. So I think that for him it's going to be more of a tactical battle, and in a sense he might have to show that he can actually take a couple of shots from Canelo Alvarez, because with the skill level of Canelo Alvarez, you already know that he's going to be able to get himself to the inside and parry a good number of shots that Caleb Plant's going to be doing. So what is Caleb Plant going to do once he gets to the inside? He's going to have to try to get something going, or he it might end up being like from a style. I wouldn't necessarily say from a skill level matchup, but like a style or like a height matchup, almost like how we saw the thing there with Charlo and Castaño, where Castaño's there, he's coming in, he's going off his front foot, and he's trying to get to the inside, where Charlo is trying to box well off his back foot and then try to score that way. But the thing with Charlo was he isn't really necessarily somebody I would say is comfortable doing something like that. So that's to me, that's how he ended up getting caught so many times from Castaño. But I think with Plant's more comfortable fighting off that back foot, throwing a jab, and keeping his opponent at bay with that jab. So I think he'll be able to do a little bit better here, against Canelo. The only problem is he got to watch out for that counter. That's the thing.
I got a question. Are we saying that? Do we think Caleb-Plant can win this fight? Does anybody think Caleb-Plant can win this fight? And if so, how? I know this is sort of like what we already answered, but do you think he can actually win, or are we just saying, will he survive? Will it be a good fight? Like, do we think he can win the fight?
I'm not favoring him to win the fight. Could he win the fight? Yes, he could win the fight. I think it may have to be a little bit more of, I would say, a couple of steps above what Sergey Kovalev did in those first 4 or 5 rounds. I think with Kovalev, he was able to score well with the jab against Canelo Alvarez. The only thing with Kovalev was that he didn't throw his right hand. He didn't follow it up with his right hand. He was scoring well with the jab, but he didn't follow it up with his right hand. And so with Caleb-Plant, I think he has to be, active, like, y'all were saying earlier, in that he has to throw, more combinations and then get himself, in and out of the pocket. Because if Canelo's just going to be on his front foot and pursuing you, then you can't be in the same line of where he is. You got to be able to get off the line. And with Caleb-Plant, I'm not sure if he has, either the, I would say the head movement or that, ability to block the shots, that would kind of like nullify what Canelo Alvarez is going to do. So I think he has to be able to use his height and range and be able to move his feet well to be out of the line of Canelo Alvarez to, be more successful over the course of 12 rounds. I don't know if he has the power to really hurt Canelo Alvarez. That's what the issue is. And that's why, brought question earlier as to, y'all would say is a more viable opponent as far as like being able to have some type of danger to Canelo there at super middleweight. Is it going to be Caleb-Plant or is it going to be, David Benavidez? And people were saying like Benavidez because he has that power. Like I said, 24 fights, 21 knockouts. While Caleb-Plant, has boxing skill, but doesn't necessarily have the ability to just end the fight just like that as much as David Benavidez does. So that's the thing with Caleb-Plant is I'm not sure what he has in order to have Canelo Alvarez respect him in the ring.
That's a great point about the respect aspect, and I think also plays a factor in how much respect Canelo starts the fight off with giving Plant. Because to me, Floyd didn't have much power, but he had enough of skill set to keep Canelo off him. Same thing with Laura. Will Canelo come in game planning to take the approach that he did against Kovalev and be patient, or take the approach of being a destroyer and moving more quickly on his approach to get inside? Or is he going to try to play the waiting game, which he tends to do in certain fights with upper class boxers? He tends to kind of wait. I think that plays a part in it. What will Canelo's mindset being in terms of coming into the fight? Does he consider Plant as a worthy opponent, or does he consider him someone less than him? Because even in the Jacobs fight or the Khan fight, there's a level of respect that he gave them early in the fight. That may allow Plant to steal early rounds. If he can get 3 of the first 5, something like, I don't think he has a chance on the cards officially. I think the best he can ask for is kind of like the Castaño effort where public perception is that he won. I think that's the best that he can hope for. And he has hopefully Canelo might take him lightly or kind of give up the early rounds.
The only thing that makes me feel worried for Plant is he does this thing when he throw his like 1, 2, 3 when he throw his left hook, and he always throws it like sort of on his front foot, and the way he throw it, he gets stuck, and that's when I see him get countered by people, and I've seen him get countered in literally almost every fight, throwing the left hook, and then he'll get countered clean enough with something. I just I think he'll make it to the end, but I think Canelo gonna hurt him based off of his deficiencies in. If he stay on his back foot and keep moving, he'll lose a respectable fight. But yeah, I don't see him winning, unfortunately.
It
Prove me
depends on
wrong,
the
Caleb.
size of the ring too, because if it's not a good size ring, there might not be much where he'll be able to back away from. I'm gonna add in another guest here. Looks like he might have just finished watching a 1 hour or 2 hour presentation of another sport, so to speak. I think it's AEW, but bringing him in, Mr. MVO, president of the Deontay Wilder fan club, Matthew Brown. What's up?
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that I was watching wrestling because Caleb-Plant has no chance in hell against the great Canelo Alvarez. I'm glad he took the fight finally. He should have took it last year when it was offered to him, but he needed the whole year to get ready. And this is the mistake that a lot of fighters make. They either take a long break or they fight guys that aren't on their level for so long because they don't want to lose. They don't want to challenge themselves. They don't want to maybe lose the chance to get the big money fight. So guess what? All this stuff that Caleb-Plant has been doing has not prepared him to fight Canelo. It hasn't done that. So he is going to struggle with a master boxer like Canelo.
I wouldn't go so far to call him a master boxer, but I agree with everything except for that.
Canelo's not a master boxer?
No, he's not a master boxer.
Let me know. Tell me what doesn't Canelo do well.
When was the fight that he fought well on the back foot?
The first Golovkin fight.
Well, he did that well for about 5 or 6 rounds, and then he kind of faded a little bit, didn't he?
I thought he finished strong, to be honest with you. And I think that's why the fight ended in a draw. Now, judging from the way World Rank was talking before I got on, I'm just thinking that he doesn't believe any Canelo scorecard. And we know that Mike Grady doesn't believe any Canelo scorecard. And this is the issue that I always have with boxing fans as it pertains to Canelo. Nobody ever just want to give it up to him, that he's the man, he's the Don Dada. It always has to be some type of nefarious plot to put Canelo at the top. I'm telling you, Canelo is the new Floyd Mayweather. Every time he wins a close fight, they say he lost, or they say he paid off a judge or something's corrupt. Why can't we just give the man credit for the type of career that he has put together and the type of challenges that he continuously take on?
So is he closer to Hulk Hogan, John Cena, or Roman Reigns?
Oh, damn. I'm going to say he's closer to the Roman Reigns because the fans need to acknowledge him. Okay. He is the tribal chief. He is the head of the table. And it's about time that people acknowledge that.
All right, so I'm gonna say it's John Cena. because Cena was hated for so long, and then there was a level of respect that he gathered over time. And I think for Canelo, like, I consider him the best fighter in the world. I'm not taking nothing from him. To me, he's my pound for pound number one based on his resume and what he's done.
Me too.
But I do think he lost the Trout. I think he lost the Trout. How do you get the scorecard that you get in the Floyd fight? Like, the Laura fight, you can go either way. I'm not going to question he could have won, he could have lost that fight. But when you get situations like that, where you always getting the benefit of the doubt, there has to be some question there. You know, there has to be question there.
Well, why can't judges just prefer his style of fighting? Like, to me, when Canelo fights, the work that he does is very clear to a judge. So I think maybe that's why it always seems like he gets the benefit of the scorecard, because the work he does is very clear. The punches he lands are very clear. You don't ever see them muffled or stifled or stuff like that. Canelo is a very clean puncher, clean counter puncher, clean boxer. So I think that's why you always see the scorecards the way they are, because at the end of the day, the judges are only human. They can't see everything. So you can't expect them to see every single punch that landed, if it's on the inside or something like that. If a punch was parried, if somebody rolled with a punch, you can't expect every judge to always see that. Canelo has had over 50 fights, but yet we always focus on maybe 3 or 4 scorecards out of 50 fights. I think that's pretty damn good, if you're asking me.
So was it the mental pressure that he put on Floyd that got him the even scorecard? Was that what you think
I
did?
just think it was a horrible scorecard.
So
And
what's all this other stuff you was talking about then, Matt?
well, listen, just because I think a scorecard is horrible doesn't mean that I think that there's anything nefarious behind it. That's what you guys don't understand. Bad scorecards happen all the time in boxing, all the time. And you guys always want to go to, well, something must be corrupt about it. Guess what happened to that woman judge, as Teddy Atlas would say, that gave Canelo that bad scorecard? She never worked in boxing again, because clearly she don't know what she's looking at. She probably thought that Canelo just walking forward is effective aggression or ring generalship, and probably scored it that way. But guess what? They reviewed it and they never let her work in boxing again. It is what it is. Now,
I'm
as for
sure she got compensated well enough to where that was a good
what do you
decision.
mean compensated? You know, these judges, most of them make at most 10,000 for a fight. You know, the key to being a judge, it doesn't matter if you get a big fight or a small fight. The key is to get a quantity of fights so you can make money. That's what the key to judging is. So to me, I find it always laughable when people say that judges are paid off, because guess what? If a judge is suddenly a millionaire, that you would know it. That would raise red flags. Okay, so all that corruption talk, let's save that for the Dougie Fishers and the Michael Monteros of the world. Let's not bring that
Steve
to
Kemp.
a great program like the Boxing Source.
So you don't take any creed in terms of the aspect that every one of these situations is the beneficial of it. We don't take no credence into every one of these fights, even if it's the 2 Triple G fights, it's the Floyd fight. It's even
No, no. So here's the thing about the Triple G fight, which is what I always say on this very program. The score was 118-110. Okay. We all agreed that the fight was closer than that. But why do we say the fight was closer than that? because we had a lot of close rounds. Now, as a judge, if you have a fight where it's 12 close rounds, but you felt that one fighter edged each round, you're going to have a 120 to 108 scorecard. Does that mean that you're corrupt? No. It means that you just thought that, yeah, the round was close, but I thought he edged it. I like what he did better in the round. So I don't ever focus on individual scorecards as much as I focus on the decision being correct, the correct fighter getting the fight. Because individual scorecards could look bad, but they are very explainable when you take into account that just because a round is close doesn't mean you have to, well, I gave this guy a close round, let me give this guy a close round. Now let me give it to him. Now let me give it. No, it's whoever you thought won the round, no matter how close the round is. So to me,
To
that's why
confirm,
you end up with these scorecards that fans complain about, because fans don't understand that you don't just arbitrarily give close rounds evenly. You give it to whoever you thought won the round. If that happens to be the same fighter, it happens to be the same fighter.
to confirm, you thought that the 3 scorecards in the Tim Bradley fight were fair, correct?
Honestly, and this is going to sound very ironic coming from me talking to Mike Grady. I have never seen any of the Pacquiao Bradley fights.
Well, the first one is the best one.
Well, I never bothered watching any of it. I'd never thought of Tim Bradley to be a guy worthy of buying a pay-per-view for.
Mhm.
And to me, if I'm gonna buy a Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view, yeah, he's a legend, but I buy pay-per-views for the matchups, not just for one fighter.
You do know you could go to Hooters and order some wings and watch the fight, right?
Yeah, I could, but I don't really like people like that unless we're all drunk and singing. You know, I don't care to be around people like that. So I've never actually seen the Pacquiao Bradley fights, which is why you've never ever once heard me comment on Pacquiao versus Bradley ever.
Well, at least you're not the only one who didn't see the first Pacquiao Bradley fight live. So
Oh, you didn't see it either?
no, not live. No.
My
Mm-mm.
man, that's what. See, you know what? This is. See, I was embarrassed because Mike Grady.
He
You
said
don't
not
watch other
live. He didn't
things.
say he didn't see it though.
Yeah, well, I ain't see it at all. I didn't. What do I care? Pacquiao lost. What do I care?
Yeah, I mean
So
that particular fight or matchup was just something, at the time I wasn't really, all too interested in. Actually at the time I thought, Bradley I thought Bradley was gonna end up fighting Amir Khan, and he ended up getting that deal with Top Rank, and that was the first fight that they, promised. But even at that particular time, I just didn't feel like, that was a fight that, I thought would be kind of like a close fight or interesting or an intriguing fight. So I just didn't watch it live. So when I, ended up finding out that Bradley got that decision, I was like, whoa, what? Serious? I was like,
You
man.
know what's funny, JR? I've only maybe seen 3 or 4 Tim Bradley fights live. I remember seeing Bradley versus Holt live. I watched Bradley versus Bam Bam Rios live.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, I think that's it.
Not even the Provodnikov fight live.
which
No.
is probably one of the best fights of that decade.
Yeah, but I didn't watch it live. Now, when I heard how the fight was lit, I went back and watched it, but I didn't watch it live because, listen, you're not going to get me to change my plans to see Tim Bradley fight. Like, I just don't care about Tim Bradley.
What if he'd have
So
fought Floyd? You'd have watched that though, wouldn't you?
I've never seen Floyd versus Andre Berto. if I don't care about a matchup, I just won't watch it. But me, I'm not the type of fan to complain about matchups. I'm not going to be on Twitter, oh my God, I hate this so much. Why is everybody watching this? Because if you like something, go enjoy it. I'm not here to tell you what to like and what not to like, but I'm just not going to watch it. But I'm not going to make a big deal out of it like how you see all these boxing reporters do. Well, we hate this matchup. We're not going to pay pay-per-view for that. I don't do that. I just don't buy it and just leave it alone.
Yeah, and that's what it is there with like you said there with Tim Bradley. Just real quick, I mean, the only fights that I remember like watching for Tim Bradley were Kendall Holt, the of course Nate Campbell, and the Devin Alexander fight, which was just from a attendance standpoint was just horrible. You know,
Hey,
it
so
was
I guess we're not the
absolutely.
only ones that didn't care to watch Tim Bradley.
So that was horrible. Like I didn't even watch. Listen, I didn't even watch the Bradley versus Marquez. That's you
Me
know,
neither.
you
Me
know that's
neither.
just the thing about it. So
I won good money off of that fight.
and you probably did. I mean, that was one that some people probably would have got some good money off of because I thought like initially that probably could have been a little bit of a toss up fight. But he Bradley ended up edging that fight. So, that was probably a good fight. But yeah, I just didn't watch it live, man. I just wasn't interested in it.
Marquez was favored, which I was like, are they kidding me?
Yeah, hey, I mean, well, both of those guys, both fighters, came up from lower weights and then ended up fighting at welterweight. So, maybe it was just something where they felt like, Marquez had a better, thing going into the fight. Like he had knocked out Manny, the fight before. So maybe they were going off that momentum.
Was it a good fight?
It was good for Tim Bradley.
No, I mean for the fans.
I mean, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't. I mean, to me, it was the same similar thing as Floyd versus Marquez. Speed kills. Like Tim Bradley got off his shots, and then Marquez threw a counter. Tim Bradley ducked under it, or he threw a couple shots and then got out of range before Marquez could hit him. That was the fight. I mean, that's not exciting to fans, but he won most of the exchanges. He didn't get hit very many times. I don't think that's one of the times where he got like hurt in the fight. You could tell me if I'm wrong on that one,
So why does
James.
Marquez
But
won the fight?
why does he what?
Why does Marquez think that he won the fight?
What fight does Marquez not think he didn't win? And most Mexican fighters that fight anyway, like they're gonna say, "Oh, I won the fight." Like the pride in themselves, which I get it, but yeah,
So their default. So they've been saying, "Y'all know I beat that boy after every fight."
Yeah, but they say it in Espanol.
Oh man. But that was a good thing there for talk about the thing for Bradley. But yeah, like you said there, Matt, it's like you really didn't have much of an interest for like a Tim Bradley, and I still don't know how he pretty much ended up getting a good end of that decision in that first fight against Pacquiao. But you're talking about the thing for judging in close fights. I don't think it's gonna be like that for this Canelo and Plant uh, bout. I think there's gonna be pretty much something where it'll be a clear performance, by one of those guys, and you'll get a clear winner out of it. But
Will we get a stoppage?
before you got on though, are the people here that were on pretty much didn't have that much confidence that Caleb Plant would be able to have the upper hand over Canelo Alvarez, and they gave a better chance for David Benavidez to defeat Canelo than Caleb Plant to defeat Canelo. What you think about that?
I could see where they would say that because Caleb Plant doesn't have power like that, but he can box, and we've seen Canelo has had problems with boxers. Now, can Caleb Plant earn Canelo's respect? I think that's going to be the telltale sign of whether or not we're going to have a good fight. But I don't anticipate that happening because I just think that Caleb Plant, I don't know, his head is just too big, man. That's a big target. It's like Canelo can't miss.
Yeah, I mean,
Since the judge who scored the fight.
I mean, yeah, my thing would be like how the size of the ring is going to be, if that's going to be a factor. But for me with Caleb Plant, though, I don't think that Caleb Plant is more of a guy that moves first. He more of like boxes than moves. So he could, be somebody that stays in the pocket, throws combinations, and then moves out of the pocket. But like we've been saying, if Canelo doesn't respect your power or respect your timing, he's going to end up trying to walk right through you. And I think that that's going to be the key here, is if Canelo is able to walk through Plant's jabs and combinations and comes back with the counter shot. And if that counter shot hurts Caleb Plant, forget about it.
What do you think, Mike?
I think the counter shot that James just spoke of will potentially hurt Caleb Plant. So when Caleb Plant throw the 1, 2, 3, when he throws a 3, he always throws it in sort of a way to where I've seen him get countered literally in most every one of his fights, like countered clean. And I think that it's a few different ways a fight can happen. I don't think he's gonna win based off of definitely one scorecard going for Canelo, just off the bat. But and based off of, I don't think he's gonna win in general. I don't think he has enough power to keep Canelo off of him. At the same time, if he tries to press the issue, I don't think he'll have enough stamina to last the full fight. So he'll let his load go in the first 6 rounds, and then he'll be fighting to survive the next 6 rounds. So that scenario doesn't work for him. If he fights on the back foot, no judge will favor him, his style, like on some fair judging. No judge will likely favor his style on the back foot unless he hurts Canelo and drops him 3 times, with the particular style. I think Canelo will counter him. I think that Canelo going to the body early and often will make Plant's hands go lower and lower and lower. Canelo gonna keep throwing to the body, circling, follow him in a circle, throwing to the body, and then Plant gonna try to do a hook or something, and then he gonna get countered. And I feel what might happen is that he might get hurt early, and then he recovers and makes it out of the round. They fight a little bit more, then he get hurt again, maybe 3 rounds later. And, just like one of those, he just keeps getting hurt because the big shots lands on him, and he just never fully recover.
Now, let me ask you guys a question. Give me Caleb Plant's legitimate path to victory against Canelo.
Effective
Okay.
range finding, things in I wouldn't say in close quarters, but he's gonna have to be very efficient. Be able to get out of the line for Canelo and just keep that thing going for the majority of the fight. The only thing is that I think in order for him to get that added edge is that he has to not be afraid to be up close and try to score power shots on the inside. whether it's throwing an uppercut or throwing like a good right hook to kind of like send a message to Canelo, he's gonna have to do that because outside of that, I think it's gonna be something to where Canelo is gonna try to figure out what Plant's doing there in those first couple of rounds and then try to effectively counter that.
Path to victory. In the first round, they throw an exchange. Exchange misses. Oh, headbutt. Canelo gets cut above his eye. So Canelo's bleeding for the whole fight. He got blood falling in his eye. Maybe round 6 or so. Canelo going in exchange, and then he like twists his ankle. And then so he got a cut on his eye. He twists his ankle, and so now he can't be mobile. I think that's the path that Caleb would win the fight.
Oh man,
I'm being funny, but I'm just saying I don't. It ain't too many scenarios unless he just catch him with a punch from the guys, as Anthony Joshua would say, and he just hit him and hurt him. Even that probably won't last them but like 4 rounds, But I don't see my heart with him. I want it to be a good fight, but I just don't see him winning. I don't see what scenario he wins unless everything goes against Canelo that normally wouldn't happen in a fight.
Uh-oh. Hey Matt, you got something to say here real quick?
Not really. I just think with Canelo, listen, he's had a great run, but at some point, everyone has a bad night at the office. How do we know that this is not the fight where he has a bad night at the office? Let's not forget that for years, Canelo had knee problems and lateral movement problems.
Yeah.
Caleb-Plant knows how to move. When was the last time Canelo legitimately faced somebody that knows how to move and box? I wouldn't say Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders hadn't been impressive since the David Lemieux fight, So to me, Caleb-Plant has all the tools to beat Canelo, but we need to find out if he has the heart, the balls, and the true confidence in himself that says, yeah, I can do this. I will do this. Because a lot of guys in the press conference and leading up to a fight, they act like they're confident, but then when they get in that ring, they freeze up. Or they know they've bitten off more than they can chew. Can Caleb-Plant bring that confidence and actually follow through with it? Because the moment Billy Joe Saunders got hit, he ain't want it no more. Okay? Is Caleb-Plant that kind of guy, or does he have that dog in him? From what I've seen from Caleb-Plant, I don't know if he has that dog in him. I really don't. He should have got Caleb Truax the hell up out of there in his last fight. And I cannot stand when you have people in the ring that don't belong there with you and you can't get them out of there. So we're going to see what Caleb-Plant is truly made of, not just as a boxer, but as a man.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, definitely see how that's gonna turn out here. I just think within those middle rounds, if Caleb-Plant gets caught with a couple of those power shots from Canelo Alvarez, then we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna see, what Caleb-Plant is really made of.
Well,
there,
if
he's gonna be,
if you talk to people in Florida, and if you talk to his first baby mama, he ain't made it too much.
yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely. That was mostly what I wanted to cover with that Canelo-Plant fight. I'm just looking at something here from our one of our favorite boxing reporters. Seems like the WBO has made an announcement, and they made an announcement that they have ordered for the WBO welterweight champion Terrence Crawford to fight Showtime
You're
Sean
lying.
Porter.
You're lying.
He's not gonna fight him.
What?
Jake, your favorite boxing writer had just posted it within 10 minutes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So
Woo!
I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe we have to revisit what Bruce Trampler said
Woo!
because, hey, once the WBO posted that order,
Shit.
you know how that works out.
Holy shit.
30 days.
Oh
But they still have to work out that deal.
We're getting
And
the fight,
the
JR.
thing is,
Let's go.
I hope they work something out. There better not be no purse bid for this.
No, it doesn't matter if it's a purse bid, don't matter anything. We're getting that fight. There's no way we don't get that fight.
Yeah, we gotta get it. This time, Bruce Trampler, now you have the opportunity to have this fight in New York or in Vegas or something.
You dropped the bomb. What's your immediate reaction, JR?
Wow, is my immediate reaction because of what was said in the past, of course, and how, representatives within Top Rank kind of like backed it. Like they said, remember, the thing that Bruce Trampler said was, hey, we're trying to pursue this fight, but both sides weren't necessarily interested. So that's the thing. Now, that being said, if this fight does take place, what does that mean for Terrence Crawford in reference to being under Top Rank?
It's his last
that's
fight.
Going to be interesting. If that's his last fight, then that's going to be that. But hey, I just did not see this coming. Of course, people were talking about the whole thing about with Crawford fighting Zepeda, but the WBO just came through. He finally came through.
And you know what?
Crazy.
If this fight does not happen, somebody's reputation is going to be irreparably damaged. That's either going to be Sean Porter or that's going to be Terrence Crawford, because there will be someone to blame for this fight not taking place now that it has been ordered. So it's time to shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, I was like, look, there would be only a couple opponents that would have made an impact for Terrence Crawford if he was going to have a big fight this year. And it was either going to be against Keith Thurman or was going to be against Sean Porter. And now it looks like it could be Sean Showtime Porter. And my thing is, Sean Porter ain't one to, kind of like, back down from anything. You know what I'm saying?
Not. He better not. You say he not. You say he not. But now he has to really prove it.
Yeah. Yep. So we're gonna see.
Football, Sean.
Let's go.
So I actually like this because, let's just say both of them, there's no funny business and they both fight. This now means that there won't be, ideally, any funny business on, hopefully there won't be any funny business on Top Rank side to where they sort of hold his last fight over his head in terms of you haven't met this last fight via your contract.
They can't. That would be a
Well,
violation of the Muhammad Ali Act. They can't do
okay.
that. This is a mandatory.
Yep.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yes, I agree. But before there was no ordered fight, they could have potentially done the same way they did with I forgot who it was, but kind of been in litigation and stopping
Oh,
him up.
Mikey Garcia.
Garcia,
Yeah.
stopping him up in years that he could have used the fight. I think that this now puts the top 4 welterweights in a tournament of sorts, and we're gonna see who the best one is.
Mm-hmm.
This is great news. This is great for boxing. This is absolutely great for boxing. And I wonder if Crawford knew. And I wonder if they already have a deal in place.
They might.
Because
They might.
Terrence Crawford on his Instagram yesterday did post,
Yep.
coming back soon. See you soon.
Yep.
And let's not forget, Sean Porter, who said he was going to announce his next fight on his podcast, basically said, oh, well, now I can't announce anything because the situation has changed. So could that change in the situation be we have reached a deal with Terrence Crawford to fight?
That could possibly be it because, I mean, all signs kind of like led to Sean Porter being part of another, PBC fight of some sort, and now it could be that maybe they have worked out that deal to where he does get in the ring against Terrence Crawford. That would be, oh boy, that would be yes. I'll be like,
And would this be
yes.
his segue into PBC?
I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to ask Bomac.
What did Mike say?
He asked if this would be a segue for Terrence Crawford to go into PBC. I'm like, no, we probably have to ask Bomac.
Not gonna matter if you lose.
I know, right?
How about
Well,
that?
the incentive for him to sign if he does win, like there are a few good possibilities because they could, make a contract and him winning and keep on fighting them or whatever. I'm just saying there's like a lot of possibilities since he all but a free agent now.
If he win.
You're right. If he wins.
I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. Let's just say that.
Oh, it's not. I would say the same thing that you said about Caleb-Plant when you first got on the phone. I would say that same thing about Terrence Crawford. His resume, I question if it has prepared him for the challenge of Sean Porter. Now, if he sit down on some shots and hit Sean clean, he could definitely hurt Sean. And that may be how he sort of runs away with the fight. But before that happens, Sean Porter definitely gonna be scoring points on him and hitting him everywhere he can, scoring points. And then Terrence Crawford gonna have to sit down, take a couple, and then just land that big shot that hurt Sean, similar to like Broner or something,
Well,
Yeah,
one
it's gonna be
thing that we know about Sean Porter, he might win some, he might lose some, but at the end of the night, you're gonna know that you've been in the fight.
Yep, that's guaranteed. That is guaranteed there. So, I mean, yeah, I'm man, I want to see this fight announced, man. We can't have this fall through, man. This can't fall through.
Because who's gonna want their reputation to take that kind of hit?
Neither one of them, especially the thing there with with Sean Porter, as public as he is now, man. You can't have a weekly podcast and then say and then say that it fell through, and then it falls through on the side of you. That can't
Exactly.
work. How are you going to
You
be able to
can't be on
explain it?
PBC on Fox when they announce Spence versus Pacquiao, and then they put Terrence Crawford's face up on that graphic of the welterweight champions, and then your ass is looking there like, damn, I turned down that fight. You can't show your face anymore
Yeah, you
if you
can't
don't
be
take
on
that fight.
inside PBC.
None of
You
that.
can't be. Yeah, you can't do it. You just can't do it. You're gonna be there with who is it? Marcos Villegas and freaking
Exactly.
Kate Abdo, and you're gonna be explaining yourself. Nah, man, I don't see how that's gonna work for you, man. I just don't see it. So,
I hope it doesn't get to
whew.
purse bid, but even if it does get to purse bid, may the best man win.
Well, what if it's the purse bid and that for some reason Tom Brown shows up representing PBC and they put up a whole lot of dough for it?
Hey, man. Hey, listen. If you can get Terrence Crawford on PBC, oh my God, that's a huge get. Huge.
Yo, it could be possible with I think so. It said 30 days, right? Okay, so that means by let's say around August 14th or whatever it is, and they could come up with a deal, right? They could still try to have the fight in November, like early November still, and still have it on Fox. If it could be on Fox. Now, what if they were able to do that? If they had the thing there for Pacquiao Spence, if they could pull off Canelo-Plant on Fox pay-per-view and have Terrence Crawford against Sean Porter, whew, man, boy, oh boy. Talk about the summer of PBC, man. It might be the year of PBC then.
Bob Arum wouldn't be able to say, "Oh, Terrence Crawford can't sell." Say it for me, Jr.
Terrence Crawford is freaking liability. I could get money off selling houses in California and get more money than if I had Terrence Crawford in a fight. Look, I know the guy's talented, but he just can't sell tickets. All right, we're gonna find that. We're gonna find out about that. All right.
Everything we need to know about Terrence Crawford will be answered in the next 30 days.
Oh, that's a fact. That is a fact.
You saying whether or not he'll take the
Absolute
fight?
fact.
Whether or not he takes the fight, whether or not Porter takes the fight, where we can legitimately say that Crawford's being avoided, whether or not he's going to make his PBC debut, or whether or not Top Rank and PBC will be able to work together on this fight. Everything we need to know is going to be answered in 30 days.
Ooh, yes, sir. And of course, with the whole little fiasco, we're gonna see if this fight can, really be made, really be put together, because it's going to kind of like decide what's happening with Terrence Crawford, and also what's happening with the relationship with Top Rank and PBC, because they worked together once before in a large scale or a high, stakes fight, and then they were supposed to do it again, and that hasn't happened. So now we're gonna see how this is going to work itself out, because we know that Terrence Crawford, by his own words, said if the fight makes sense, then the fight will get made. Well, we're going to see how much sense this is going to be for Terrence Crawford here within the next 30 days.
I think you covered it all, JR.
Yep, that's it. So with that being said, we're gonna get more, off of this, latest breaking news out there as far as like this is concerned. But man, yeah, I want that fight to happen, man. I don't care, man. That's it for me for the midweek report, man. Yo, just for that fight to happen, man. I don't care, man. That's it for the midweek report, man. We're gonna get back at it with the live podcast on Sunday night, man. And for anyone that was joining in live, thanks for joining in live. But on that note, man, I'm out. Peace.